Welcome to Eureka. I'm Gauhar Raza and you are watching a fascinating program called Eureka. Today, let me tell you a story. A boy is born in a family who is located in Shantiniketan. This is where the most hectic intellectual activity was taking place before we became independent. This boy grows up in Calcutta. He has a neighborhood and a family where everybody is playing around with beakers, burettes, pipette, etc. etc. There were chemists all around him. And he opens his eyes and gets completely fascinated by this world of chemistry. But this boy is not interested in studies. The family gets very disturbed. His elder brother is a brilliant student, and till 6th class, he is a bad student. Now, this bad student comes back to Shantiniketan because his father was brilliant mathematician, head of the department. His father takes a decision to correct the path that this boy was following. Welcome to Eureka, Dr. Pushpito K Ghosh.
Thank you so
a
much.
brilliant scientist
Thank you so
our
much.
country has produced.
Thank you.
How do you remember your childhood when you were fascinated by those burettes and pipette and not the studies?
Well, uh, I think that it's just that my siblings were so much more brilliant than I was that perhaps I
You
shied
went
away.
into depression as a child?
I shied away from studies. But at the same time, I had an aunt and an uncle. And that uncle, I later on learned was a chemist. And in their house, they used to have a laboratory. And it was the most interesting thing because I'd never seen all those beakers and funnels and things. So I think that definitely did something to arouse my interest. And also having been in Shantiniketan, at least for a part of my childhood, one saw, of course, the ambience of an academic life, and no doubt, I
And
think
academic included right from politics to poetry to
absolutely, because
painting to science to
yeah,
everything.
I must tell you, I mean, because in fact, my father, as you mentioned, was a mathematician, and I remember he wrote several books, and some of them were actually forwarded by none other than Professor Satyan Bose, who happened to know my father very well. And so I've seen very great minds, although I didn't know what they did at that time, but I knew that they were very famous people. And then you have neighbors, who later on you come to learn that they were all outstanding people. But as kids, we just treated them as uncle and auntie. But I think at some point, definitely, that
You
kind
were
of
never impressed by any one of them as a child.
I wouldn't say I wasn't impressed. I was impressed, but I think I was probably fiercely independent in my views, and unless I felt that something was good, even if someone told me it's good, I oftentimes took it with a pinch of salt.
You give credit to your father for the turning point at
Yes.
sixth standard,
Yes.
and then onwards you became a
Yes.
bright student. But giving this credit to only father is a little bit too much. I think that you must have realized that you need to have rigor and do something
Yeah.
about your
Yeah,
studies.
I think you're absolutely right. I think the guidance from my father was really a catalyst. But of course, eventually you have to do things on your own
And take a decision,
and take a
firm decision.
decision. And I think that also confidence begets confidence. Once you start doing well, you realize that you can do better, and that's how you get better and better. And I think that that's probably what happened to me. And and at the same time, I think I became a lot more hardworking.
When you decided to go back to do further studies abroad and you did your part of the research abroad. Uh, was it the family that supported you, or was it your decision and strong-headedness?
I think that's really a very good question, and I must tell you that you know that an academic researcher, a professor, did not really earn very much, and so there was always a big shortage of money at home, and there was a lot of tension. In fact, you know, our school fees would not be paid, and even though we did well, we didn't get our report card. Sometimes very embarrassing.
That's true of most
Oh, so many.
mathematicians
Yes,
of that
and
generation.
so I was extremely lucky that right after school, I received the National Science Talent Search Scholarship, which used to be a very prestigious scholarship at that time.
I
After
remember my
school,
childhood days. Yes.
and that scholarship is, I think, the one big event which transformed everything, because you know, those were the days when Calcutta was a hotbed of politics, and I was a bit scared that if I study anywhere in over there, you know, maybe the studies would get interrupted, and I was looking to move out, and that scholarship helped me immensely because I could secure admission to St. Stephen's College in Delhi, and and without that scholarship, I would never have been able to
That scholarship
study
has
there.
built so many scientists in the country.
Absolutely,
That was
and
a remarkable decision,
it's a,
policy decision that was taken by the political and scientific elite of that time. I
quite
do remember.
correct, quite correct. And I sometimes wonder what happens to the good things and why they don't continue, and they get aborted sometimes. But and the fact that, you know, it was not just for my BSc but also for masters in IIT Kanpur, which I did subsequently,
And St. Stephen's College
St.
in
Stephen.
Delhi.
So that 5 years of support.
Have you been to St. Stephen's College?
Oh yes, they had actually invited me to deliver a lecture there just a couple of years back, and one of my great teachers, Professor Ishwaran, was still there, and it was just extraordinary to see you know, the brilliant students that they're there. I think in our time it was a bit easier to get in. Now I hear it's almost impossible to get admission there, but maybe I was a bit lucky.
When you decided to join CSIR, CSIR was already a big, large organization, and you decided to work in the area of chemistry. Did it facilitate and encourage you to continue your research, or you felt stifled?
No, in fact, CSIR, as you know, is a great organization. I must tell you, though, that the road to CSIR, in my case, was a bit convoluted. I did my.
It was quite convoluted.
Yes, it was quite convoluted. I actually did my PhD overseas in Princeton, and then did
One of the
postdoctoral.
best places in the world to do chemistry.
Yes, I mean, it's a great university
Great
as such, you
university.
know, where Albert Einstein spent
Yeah.
so much of his time towards the end,
Yeah.
and extraordinary place. And then I have to have had the privilege of doing postdoctoral research in so many other with very eminent scientists. Then I came back to India, joined academics at the University of Hyderabad, and after that, for whatever reason, we needed to move to Bombay, and my wife and I both moved, and I actually switched from academics to I will say more of an industrial research. Well, it was one of the great multinationals at the time, ICI, Imperial Chemical Industries,
Right.
and they had a wonderful research center which I joined. And ICI actually gave me a blend of what I will call very good basic research combined with exceptional applications. And I not only learnt a lot, I fortunately did contribute also to the center, and that also took me to England, where I was looking after a part of the strategic research of ICI. And in turn, you know, there was a lot of networking with institutions like Oxford, Cambridge, across the continent to the United States. So what it did was that one got to do not just research but also learned research management,
Research
and
management, linkage between applied
linkage
research,
between applied and
basic research, innovation,
absolutely innovation,
and adaptation.
and these are also vital to
But why
becoming
did they leave you?
well, actually, they didn't. I must tell you that they weren't leaving me to come back to India, but I did because I was subsequently the head of the institution, the research center, and it became a very leading research center of ICI worldwide. I mean, the only one after England, which was considered to be a very famous research center. But I think always I had the longing to do something for a larger good.
So the science that you were conducting now, when you shifted after a lot of push and pull probably from your previous organization to CSIR, how did you reconcile from doing that kind of cutting edge thing and then serving the country?
Yeah, I think that if there was one thing I can consider as my strength, perhaps, it is that I didn't have any bias towards a particular type of research. I quite enjoyed doing many different things, all the way from very, very basic fundamental research to extremely applied research. What happened was that I was quite fascinated by the vision and mandate of CSMCRI in Bhavnagar, and Dr. Mashelkar had been persuading me to consider a career in CSIR,
And that is how
and that actually made
you
was one of the significant reasons
for
for
joining.
my moving. And I must tell you that obviously the experience in ICI with applied research came in extremely handy.
helped you a
And
lot to shape this institute.
100%.
We'll
And
come back to that
yes,
discussion. I have to take a break. Don't go anywhere. The discussion is turning more and more interesting. We'll come back. Welcome back to Eureka. We were discussing with Dr. Pushpito Ghosh how he shaped one of the most valued institution of CSIR. When you joined this institute, from there to now when you are about to leave, what kind of transformation do you see?
Well, it's been such a wonderful journey, and firstly, I must say that I
You've
joined.
served for a very long period.
Yes, I joined as the director in March 1999, and as I mentioned, I realized that the institute has great potential in terms of the kind of vision it had. India has a long coastline, as you know, and so I said, this is a great place. I mean, this is just the kind of institution that can matter to India. I also realized that many of the technologies that it was working on were considered mature. Like, for example, salt. People will say, "What can you possibly do with salt?" It's
Humanity has
mature.
been eating and tasting
Yes, yes.
and using
Hey,
that
what you
salt
cannot
for.
do, and or take water, and where I think we were pioneers in the sense that we were working on membrane technology, which today is so important, and then there would be
And it's
another kind of
remarkable that you were the first technologist who had that RO system installed in the country.
Yes, and
Was that the moment of Eureka in your life?
well, of course, that is not something that I can take credit for. That the first RO system that was put, but subsequently we went on to do several great things, and there were one or two Eureka moments right after I joined. I must tell you that we had the Orissa super cyclone, as you know, and I'd gone for that, and we had set up some units in Orissa and to provide clean drinking water. And I realized at that point that there was no electricity. That's one of the there are
Right.
two casualties after most of these calamities. One is there's no
electricity is
power,
gone.
and then there's no water, and that got me thinking.
And
I
communication system otherwise
communication
also
systems
get
are disrupted.
disrupted
And I remember saying that I saw a lot of cattle, and a lot of oxen moving around, and I said, can you not do actually water purification using animal power? And we went on to invent the world's first oxen-powered reverse osmosis unit, and nobody could believe that you can generate such a high pressure with animal power, and that's what we did. So that was a great sense of joy, and actually one of the inventions that I'm proud of, because it was a grassroots innovation where you drew inspiration from actually the people. And for example, salt again. I mean, if you see the people who produce salt,
Hopping on the same
yeah.
subject, this technology, further improved, modified, was also now ready for providing help to Middle East.
Oh yes,
And we were very welcome, and
yes,
we were proud CSIR scientists who claimed
right.
that we have been able to help other countries.
Right. I think that we've had a long history of actually helping and cooperating with other countries. As in everything, this was a technology which was the domain of really only a very few companies. It was considered to be very sophisticated, the desalination membrane technology. And over a period of time,
Yet very
it was
simple.
actually it was not complicated at
Yet
all,
very
but
simple.
and a lot of it was deeply into understanding really what causes desalination, what causes or gives you high output, and this was the linkage between science and technology, and the great sense of pride, in having set up 25 plants in Afghanistan, the first desalination project in Afghanistan, putting up plants in so many villages of India, including seawater desalination.
Right.
That's a great sense of pride. And now that the membranes are being produced now commercially in India, I think that that's what makes us very proud, because this is the first indigenous production of these membranes.
That still gives you a kick when you
Oh
look
yes,
back
yes,
and
but I must tell you that it's very easy to also become obsolete in no time, and therefore to always remain at the cutting edge and remain competitive, maintain the competitive advantage. That's very crucial.
that is what is science
To
all about.
and so
That you
it's a
don't stop.
yes, it's a moving object. And you keep going on and just get better and better at something.
You don't refer back to some shastras and some
No,
old
no,
books, and
no,
you
and
have to be
you have to.
at the forefront
Yes, and I
and
think a
move
lot
on.
of times people don't quite appreciate what is the power of science. I mean, many times, when you have an innovation or an invention, actually it is not necessarily rooted in very deep science. It's rooted in a need. It's rooted in basic street smart cleverness. But at some point thereafter, when you say yes, but what do I do now to make it better? You've got to have much better insight into the product or the process that you're making, and that's where the science kicks in.
So at times what happens, that very deep science and fundamental science and basic science and that understanding helps you to solve a very mundane problem.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But without that fundamental and basic science done within the country, you can't solve these
You cannot.
easy problems,
Yes,
which are at large level very difficult.
yes, and also I think that in fact I can give another example. I mean, maybe I'll just take a couple of minutes to say that. Uh, One, I was talking to you about salt. I mean, if you see the people who produce salt, a lot of it is very informal sector. These people do such backbreaking job, and then they get a pittance
It's
of money
very hard work. I
for
have
their salt. And when we were asking people that why do you get so little money, and we realized that it's because the quality of the salt is not up to the mark, and so these people get cheated by the middlemen, and so we started working with organizations like Seva, and said what can we do in terms of science to really make a better salt, and that's where one of the great I would say joys for us was that we could invent in seemingly mature technologies like salt and ended up making an outstanding quality salt and what was considered impossible to do. And those are the kinds of things on which we have US patents, And so we have a large number of US patents on so-called mature technologies, and which we were able to show that there's nothing which is ever mature.
Dr. Pushpito Ghosh, your contribution, which is outstanding anyway, has been recognized right from the childhood. The first scholarship that turned your life to any big award that a scientist could aspire for. Which one do you recollect as the one that you wanted?
Well, I think probably what has given me most satisfaction as a scientist and considering the person I am is that I was recognized both by academic institutions, as well as by industry. You know, that's a great sense of satisfaction. So I am the fellow of the
And
Indian.
NGOs
Oh yes, and also
and the
governments. You know,
community.
and I am the fellow of the Indian Academy of
Which
Sciences.
one is the most
Well,
important?
I would say that
It's a difficult
receiving
question that I'm asking.
the two that I
Maybe
will say,
embarrassing.
one is receiving from Daimler Corporation, the Daimler Chrysler Environment Leadership Award, which I received for the work that we did on jet for biodiesel. You know, that is what spurred all the interest in biodiesel all over the world.
All over the world,
Oh yes, all
including
over the
Africa
world,
and
and our vision that oil from wasteland, that it was recognized as something very important. I think was a matter of great satisfaction. The second, I will say, receiving Indian Chemical Council's Lifetime Achievement Award a few years back was again a great satisfaction, because I think that we need to understand that CSIR as an organization is definitely accountable to industry also.
Right.
And so to be able to recognize by them that yes, what we did mattered, I think was a great sense of joy.
I hear a lot of people saying that now younger generation is not interested in science, etc., etc. Would you like to give a message to younger generation? Do you have still confidence in younger generation?
Well, I have a great deal of confidence, and let me say that I have seen how extraordinarily bright, the younger generation is, and so I have no doubt that India is in great hands if it can be
Channelized.
channelized and made to use, put to use. I would say that there are two or three things that. Never lose sight of what you desire to do. I think that that is very important. That you must have conviction in what you desire and not just be swayed by what society or others think about you. It's very important. Integrity in whatever we do, I think, is very, very important, because many times we waste a lot of time because we have not been quite honest to ourselves. And if you are a bit more honest to ourselves, you'll find that you can actually cut short the time. The third, I think, maintain a great sense of curiosity. See curiosity and enthusiasm in the ordinary day, everyday things. And there are such remarkable inventions to be made, from this curiosity. It could be all kinds of curiosity. It could be that the way we crushed seaweed and got a beautiful biofertilizer out of it, realizing that there is more than one way to pull out water from a material rather than just leave it to dry. So there could be all kinds of curiosity and innovation. And fourth, I think that also don't sacrifice depth. Depth is important in
Rigor.
if you want to the rigor,
The
with
rigor.
which you solve a problem. And the fifth, I will say, teamwork is extremely important, because problems are becoming more complex, and you sometimes need a team to address a problem well rather than an individual.
Right.
And the sixth, I will say, is communication. It's vitally important that we be able to articulate.
Communicate
our,
not only within the community of
Yes.
scientists, but across the borders
across the borders.
and to the lay
Yes,
person
the
as well.
layperson, and in fact, I think that one of my great joys has been to interact continuously with journalists, and it was so nice to have our work featured in Nature, for example, and that's because
Absolutely.
we were able to, I think, communicate the interest and the importance behind our work, to the layman.
Integrity, pursue the goal that you have set for yourself, work hard to achieve. That is the message that we get today for the younger generation. We'll come back next week. It's been just fascinating to talk to you.
Thank you so
on
much.
Eureka.
Thank you.
Thank you.